Today I want to talk a little bit there about the challenges of being a sub-editor, whether for a magazine or for a newsletter or for a newspaper. The question is not about spelling, correct spelling, dividing a long paragraph into a smaller version, but the idea of grasping what the writer is trying to say, making it presentable in the case of a newspaper, presentable to the man in the street that he can read. I remember working on the Sunday Express, and a lot of feature writers, particularly politicians, would send in some material, and to tell the truth, there were some things written that I couldn't understand, and I hope that by my sub-editing it will become a little more readable. But to tell the truth, I was not gifted really with understanding all the political trauma that we might have been going through in our country. But I had to not appear bright or to understand, but just to let things flow evenly. And I was glad when some of them wrote their own headlines to their copy, because I at times couldn't understand, and it was difficult to find a headline. Not that their headlines were fantastic. As a matter of fact, I believe that reporters, journalists, sub-editors, editors, they're born with a knack for this kind of thing. And usually that people who presented things from the outside, they did not have the flair. Actually, I say this without embarrassment, because it's true. They did not have the flair to write headlines and even to present copy that the man in the street could understand. Nevertheless, a newspaper is made up of different aspects, and so we have the religious, we have the comics, we have different things, and well, you hope that the readership out there would appreciate its own interests, so to speak. But nevertheless, a sub-editor at times had to really, murder copy. For instance, I'll show you what I mean here. This was something written, and by the time you were going through the first copy and you got to the second one, man, you were almost mutilating the thing to make it comprehensible to the reader. This story in particular is called The Case of the Missing False Teeth. So we're going to try to see what happens as a sub-editor goes through copy. I will try my very best to present it. One thing we didn't do, and we shouldn't do, is to alter the sense of what was written. We don't want to take the identity of a writer and make that story ours. We have to maintain the same pitch, and then we would have to also find the material to go along with the story, picture-wise, or with some illustration or such. So let's look at this story here that was written by a young man. It's called Case of the Missing False Teeth. Ivan and Mary, his mother, were dear friends of my parents. They lived on the brow of what was an old quarry, East Dry River. I suppose that's how Quarry Street off Piccadilly got its name. Ivan loved to play Sailor Mass and had such a long record with Trinidad All-Stars Steel Band, but that by the time I could say Uncle Ivan, he was already an admiral. Really, Ivan was born to the sea. He had graduated from king sailor to fancy sailor to the man controlling the fleet. As king sailor, he wore cotton wide drill or corduroy pants. Let's see now. This has been so mutilated, it's kind of difficult. Cotton wide corduroy pants and shirt with a sailor collar. Epaulets were set to each shoulder, a red sash crossed the chest. A crown sat on the masquerader's head, cords, pedals, and war ribbons graced the left side of the chest. Stuck in Ivan's back pockets were 2 canisters of cosmetic powder, preferably, I should say, baby powder. Sailor Mass was incomplete without powder, that sweet, fine stuff that filled the air and covered even spectators indiscriminately, when the musical frenzy began. We all respected the saying, you can't play mass on frayed powder. If you're in it, take what you get. King's sailors gave way to fancy sailors who wore papier-mâché headpieces which usually depicted various animals. It was no surprise to see Ivan strutting by as a naval officer, wrapped in colorful ribbons and toting medals and braiding. We didn't think Ivan could dance, but there he was on the Savannah stage doing the crab, rock the boat, skipjack, and camel walk. Though the band had female masqueraders, Ivan's constant companion was a brown, polished walking stick. We never knew when Ivan and his mother met our family, but we suspect that mother must have seen his immaculate outfit on one carnival, and later established its expertise as a master pressman. Ivan, with a splendid array of perfect white teeth and horn-rimmed spectacles, was also a one-man steam laundry. Mother took all of Dad's special pants to Ivan for ironing. When the job was done, Ivan would stand back, fold his arms, and admire his superb seams on Dad's trousers. Look at them seams, he would say. You touch them, and your fingers will bleed. They're so sharp, sharp, sharp. But I believe Mother was tired. She would iron from 3 p.m. on a Friday to 8 p.m. Then it was cold pot and flat irons. It wasn't that Mother abhorred ironing. I believe the gesture was also to add to Ivan and Mary's coffers, to help a less privileged family, that's all. And it's amazing how the less fortunate can be so hospitable. Ivan will humbly accept the money, and with a clever salute, even out of sailor's uniform, he would rush off to a Prince Street corner parlor for hamburgers and orange juice for his adopted family. Now Ivan will have to skip over a lot of boulders because the quarry, believe it or not, and I guess today, a lot of people would pass Piccadilly Street and will never imagine the kind of quarry that existed just above to the eastern side of Piccadilly Street. Ivan, despite his short frame, was a great tall tales enthusiast, and he spoke with such a straight face and lilt, it was excusable to mistake fiction for truth. Like the time he saw on the way home from a late movie at Pyramid Cinema, Charlotte Street, a man dive into the St. Anne's River, better known as the Dry River. During the rains, this river can be a foul torrent with its angry surface punched mercilessly by unruly debris. But not on this night, Ivan's night. Water barely filled the middle part and meandered lazily to the Gulf of Paria. Ivan rushed to peer into the concreted chasm. Nobody there, here or anywhere. No blood, nothing. Jesse Owens, they say, would have been proud of Ivan's sprint home to Mama Mary. Now, Pyramid Cinema stood to the western side of Charlotte Street. Opposite, we had Royal Cinema. I believe today you would see a car park there. And Pyramid Cinema is no longer there. Its front had actually been shaped like a pyramid, Egyptian type. And it was really the cinemas that the people of maybe Observatory Street and Belmont areas frequented. But that's a part of history that has gone. To the young ones, Ivan's immaculate teeth were a mystery. Were they real or false? But they remained only a mystery since children of that era were allowed to wonder but not to question. It was no surprise really when Mother would invite Marie and Ivan for weekends in the hill country. Marie was such a gentle woman, so affectionate. Up in her 80s, she just belonged with us. We didn't have electric power then, so one can imagine the tales that tingled scalps. Father flashed in those days new dentures and every night before bedtime he placed his treasured mouthpiece into a clean bowl with clean water. These he put high on a shelf in a room adjoining the kitchen, well out of the reach of inquisitive minds and probing hands. Once he was repeatedly cautioned by Mother never to use an ordinary cup lest someone should carelessly gulp down the archaeological artifact. Ivan and Mary enjoyed Mother's supper. Later, Ivan insisted, before leaving for the city, on washing the dishes, so Mother graciously let him. Uneasily, Dad slipped out of bed the next morning and hurried to his dental hideout. He had forgotten to secure his dentures on the shelf. Gulp! The teeth had disappeared. No water, no dentures, just the empty bowl neatly placed on the wares rack. What? Where? Panic settled and logic bit in. Ivan! It had to be him. Not intentionally, of course, but it had to be him. Mother laughed. Hand cupped over her mouth, she teased. You could always use mine. Dad wasn't in the least amused. The recovery troops were called out, and the arduous search began. Nope, not under the water tanks. Nope, not behind those rocks. Nope, not in the drain pipe. The rubbish heap. Nope, not there. Finally, Dad gave up the hunt. Time to feed the hens instead, he said, with a funny grin. And in that familiar tone, he clucked the fretting birds nearer. Guess who should emerge from the nearby buttercup patch? Mr. Strut, the rooster. Dad's $50 false teeth dangling from its horny beaks. Talk about when cock get teeth. So in a little while, we're going to rush this down to the shop and hope that the girls in the pool room will be able to decipher all the corrections. And then we're going to give it a headline, and the Pace-Up boys in those days of old, back in the 60s and 70s, they will have that sheet that was done by the layout man up front. And the stone sub who is down in the back, he will make sure that the things are going according to the plan. And there's a time factor to all of this. Because each combination of pages had to be into the photographic department at a certain time. And then when everything is complete and the last pair, being the front and back pages, would go to press, would go into the photographic room and be prepared for the press. And from there, later on in the night, the what do you call them? The distributors will come and they will gather the papers, and maybe by 9 o'clock, 9:30, the Sunday morning newspaper would be already on the street by Saturday night. So press times are very important to a newspaper and to any establishment that produces something that is perishable like a newspaper, and you have to get it out there early. So I have enjoyed the time I spent in the sub department. I've enjoyed the people I've worked with, and hope that this little story here case of the missing false teeth, would be enjoyable to you too. Thank you.